Hello everyone, welcome to the Jewish Week Online. Teshuvah, repentance, is an important part of our Jewish values. We had the opportunity to attend This World Values Network event in New York City featuring Jack Abramoff and Rabbi Shmuley Boteach. Jack Abramoff was a super lobbyist who fell from grace and now is on a mission for repentance. Let's take a closer look. Teshuvah is a powerful process. You've been through a lot. When did you realize you need to do your own personal teshuvah?
When I realized I had done wrong. When after my career was over and I started examining what I was involved in, and I realized that I had done wrong, and that's when it started.
And when you're going through this process, and you mentioned in your speech when that jail shut for the first time, did you realize then that you have to further your own teshuvah process of making?
I knew it before then. I mean, I knew it. Jail was the final landing of a thud, but my mind was already well directed in that direction. And
obviously, when you're going through the things that you went through, when you look back at it now, did you think you could stop it at any point?
Well, I didn't think I should stop it. I mean, I didn't think, again, as I explained tonight, it wasn't like I was sitting there thinking I was doing anything wrong. And it only required me to get out of this system to see I was doing wrong.
As you were writing your book, did anything inspire you? When you were, when you start reflecting, was there any time you're writing your book when you're like, wow, I can't believe that actually happened to me?
Well, it was before that. I wrote my book after I got out of prison. Before I went to prison, I started going through all my emails, and I think that was probably the moments. It was almost 7 years later that I wrote my book, so a lot of the emotion kind of had gone out of it in the sense that I'd been through it already.
And everyone goes through their Jewish journey, and when you were in prison, you brought Judaism to people who didn't have it before, or you want to enlighten people. Tell us a little bit about your prison experience and your Judaism.
Well, I tried to, where I could, help the other Jewish inmates, all of whom were not religious for a while, in exploring and learning about their faith. They were going through crises, and some of them were seeking religious input, and I had spent most of my life learning, so I had some things to say, and I tried to say it. I ran classes for a long time. I ran a number of classes, Bible, prayer, Hebrew, and things like that for those inmates.
And now, what are you hoping to change in your life?
Well, I'm hoping to change me every day, and it will be a struggle until I'm in the grave, and I just have to keep at it. Why
did you decide to create this event?
Because every day we read about these scandals in the news, and often very decent men do things that are very wrong, and you never hear about them anymore, or they pop up again like Elliot Spitzer on TV, and we don't know their path of penitence. We never talk about repentance. My objective is to bring Jewish values to the mainstream, and Jack Abramoff is a very famous story, and if he's on this penitential path, and if it's sincere, I want to hear about it. I want to discuss it. I want to examine all of the components of the penitential life, because we all make mistakes to varying degrees, and I think it's important for us to bring teshuvah into our lives.
I want to hit teshuvah because there's so many different levels of teshuvah, and when you go through an experience like Jack's, there's different ways to do that. What would, if someone came to you with a similar story like him, what would be your first? What would you give advice?
Well, exactly what I said at the beginning of the evening. I mean, number one, I would outline Maimonides' 4 steps of repentance, which is number one, charatz al, you have to really regret what you did. You have to acknowledge it as bad, and you have to regret it, and it has to cause you a certain pain that motivates you to change. Number two, you got to stop doing it. Number three, you have to make it right. You have to go to all the people you hurt and make it right. You have to. So when it comes to something like this, yes, not only does Jack need to make it right to anyone who he's hurt, of course, but also the system needs to be changed so that it can't be manipulated by anyone. And that's an important component of it, because all of us want to live in a country where we have confidence and faith in our government. And finally, number 4 is you got to do things differently. You have to undertake positive action that rectifies the previous misdeeds. That is teshuvah.
Right. And you actually just are coming out with a new book.
What, Kosher Jesus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tell us
10 years in the making.
10 years. Now, what is it about?
Well, I hope people will read it, but it's about the true story of the Jewish Jesus. It's about the Jews reclaiming Jesus by understanding the authentic nature of his story, as opposed to the story that has been brought down to us after considerable editing on the part of Christian editors who wanted to distance Jesus from the Jewish people after the Jewish revolt of the year 66 to 70. And it's about Christians learning about the authentic Jewish Jesus in order to have an enriching experience of their own Christianity. You can't really practice Christianity unless you understand Judaism.
And you're bringing together people from different backgrounds and religions. And this book how do you think will affect the Christian-Jewish relations? What are your hopes for it? I
think it'll greatly improve them. I think there has to be a theological bridge between Jews and Christians. It's not enough for Christians just to support Israel, but we welcome their support and we're very grateful for them. But there has to be, we can't only be separated by the personality of Jesus Christ, given that he was Jewish. We have to examine his Jewishness more to see what aspects of his life can serve as a bridge for Jews and Christians, even as we understand him in completely different ways.
So when you looked at this 10 years ago, like what inspired you?
It started more than 10 years ago. I mean, I started writing it 10 years ago. This started a quarter of a century ago when I really was debating Christian missionaries who were trying to convert Jews to Christianity and to a belief that Jesus was the Messiah. And I started studying the New Testament in depth and Christian writings in depth, and indeed the Messianic prophecies that the Christians used to substantiate Jesus' claims in depth. And that's where I did a lot of debates. A lot of them are available on the internet, and the book started to take shape. And I'm very proud of it, and I hope it'll make an impact, a positive impact, God willing.
As you can see, repentance is a process. There are no shortcuts. But if you truly believe that you are sorry for what you did, anything is possible. This is Aaron Herman, and thanks for watching.